I want to ask you a little bit about sort of the new team that you have. You're developing some new guys, some new, not only players, but I would assume leaders. No Thomas Davis, no Julius Peppers, no Ryan Khalil. And it's probably the biggest veteran changeover you've had since you've been the coach. As a coach, what are the issues that you deal with, and how do you handle those losses and the additions that go along with them?
Well, when I first got here, it was evident that there were some really solid veteran leaders, no more so than Jordan Gross was for me. So my first few years, no matter what was going on, I had Jordan Gross. I could go to Jordan Gross and he can tell me, hey, Coach, think about this. Coach, what about that? Look at this. And it goes back to the conversation I had with John Madden my third season. After my first 2 years, the realization that I didn't have a mentor was there. So I sought out John Madden, and he was tremendous. And he told me, Ron, the one thing you don't have is you don't have a mentor, which was true. And I didn't have a guy that I could go to. So I worked with Coach Madden, and knowing how important.
What would you do? Text him and email him?
I wouldn't visit him.
Wow, okay.
I flew out to California, Pleasanton. We sat down and we were there for about 4 hours. And I did it for 5 years. I mean,
wow. Every year for 5 years?
5 years. I got some great notes. I mean, it's the conversations we had were tremendous. And
give me a little snippet of something that you took from John Madden.
Okay, so after the 2013 season, I went back and I asked Coach. I said, what do we do, to maintain where we are, to be a consistent winner? And he said, Ron, the biggest mistake a lot of people do is they come back after a successful year and think they can start here. The biggest mistake. He said, you have to start here. Go back to the base fundamentals, the basics. If things aren't going well, go back to the basics. So I try to make sure that our first few days here at camp is all about basic football and that we do these things. It's interesting. He gave me a little bit of a warning after the Super Bowl year, which was interesting, because so much was being put on, and you've heard me talk about it, so much was being put on that first game that, because we had the Super Bowl rematch. It was the first time in 50 years or 49 years that there was a Super Bowl rematch to open the season. And so much. Which,
you know what, you're still a little bit ticked off about.
I truly am. I really am, because for the next 5 months, I had to live that every day. Oh, you got a chance for revenge. And so that was one of my conversations with Coach. And Coach said to me, he says, Ron, you got to be careful, because if you put so much emphasis in that first game and you lose it, it can wreck you. It really can. And it was interesting that he put it that way. So during that whole offseason, I was very mindful to try and stay away from it. But it kept coming back. Coming back. And then lo and behold, the way we lost. Think about the way we lost on a missed field goal. We had a chance to win. It was a physical. I mean, it was a very physical game. I mean, it was one of those. And we lost it. And that year we had that swoon, that we just couldn't get. And it was a struggle. I mean, it really was. And it's not fair to sit there and blame just that situation.
Right.
But it's funny, because that was the one thing that I went and I sought and talked to Coach Madden about, and he warned me about it. And lo and behold, it came true. I mean, it was a devastating loss, and I could tell it was one of those things, and just trying to get everything.
So even though you stressed that with your team, it still was a big. It still was a big deal to your team.
It was, because he talked about. He says, when you put so much into it and it doesn't work, how deflating is it? He says you got to understand. You got to put it in perspective. That's 1 out of 16.
Right. Yeah.
That's 1 out of 16. So
I thought it was pretty amazing last year. The Bears lose the horrible game in Green Bay at the start of the year, and Matt Nagy's first game, and I said, man, how are they going to handle this? And they came out of it.
What was interesting is even though they lost, you saw how they played, and you knew that, God, this team's got a chance. And I'll be honest with you too, from my perspective, having you look at the league and you see what jobs are open, you sit and say, man, I think that's a good job. I thought the Bears' job was a really good job, and I thought Matt's done a nice job in his 2 seasons handling the way that he has handled the team. I just thought last season, I just thought that was a really good job, because they were able to stay where they were. Plus, they had some really good leadership, especially on the defensive side.
Ron, how are you going to handle this year the new pass interference rules the appeals and the fact that now you can challenge not only a flag that was put on the field, but you can challenge any play. And if you can, talk a little bit about the pressure, the added pressure that puts on a coach and a coaching staff.
Well, it's interesting because that's one of the things that we've been trying to study and prepare for. You know, we've met with the head of replay. We've sat down and talked to him about, you know, what they're looking for, how they do it. Alberto Riveron's been tremendous. He has sent a lot of information to all the coaches. I've called and talked to them about it, you know, about really what they're looking for and what their standard. And that's what the key is. Everybody has to understand is this is the standard. And if we can stick to that standard, I think it'll be okay throughout the league. For us, we're going to try and see if we see it and say, guys, okay, was it the standard? Was it egregious enough? You know, that's the first question you have to answer.
In other words, if there's a little bit of hand fighting, even if it's a big play, you're probably not going to challenge it.
Correct. Even, you know, the thing that's crazy is hand fighting, there's no definition of hand fighting. It's just a term that's used. Yeah. So really, from referee to referee, what is enough? But what we're trying to make sure we see is somebody truly gaining the advantage. If you can see enough of a turn pull that there's a turn, you can see enough of a hold that you're slowing the guy down, then you have to take a serious look at it and say, hey, we're going to challenge that. But if, like you said, there's incidental contact, there's quote unquote hand fighting, you can't. So you know, and we've looked at tape. In fact, we looked at it the other day, a group of us. Alberto sent another one of the tapes that the coaching tapes that they have. We looked at that. I sent to all my coaches, told everybody to look at it. So when we have a chance to sit down and talk about it, we will. So we're really trying to make sure that we're going to try and eliminate the doubt when it comes time to whether challenge or not.
Will you have one person in the booth doing all calls telling you to challenge that, or how do you do it upstairs and then communicate it to you?
In the past, and we just lost Jim Skipper to retirement. Mm-hmm. Jim Skipper.
Was he your replay guy?
He was one of my guys, okay. And Sam Mills, who's upstairs. He's our D-line coach.
Sam Mills' son.
Yes.
You know,
oh, absolutely. Young man. I mean, grew up in football a little bit, but Sam and I, you know, would always talk, and he was like Coach Skipper. He understood the rules. He knew the rules. So he would say, hey, we need to look at this play. So Sammy's been one of the guys that has been going through all this with me in terms of trying to prepare ourselves for it.
Yeah. But you won't have a dedicated person who's not on your coaching staff upstairs.
As of right now, no.
Yeah.
That is something also, Peter, that we are talking about right now.
Yeah.
We're discussing it.
It runs the gamut. I can tell you, There's one coach in this league who has a person up there, and he told me we're going to add a second one just to look at, you know, interference. And I've told that story a few times, and they said, how many people can we fit in those boxes around the league?
And that's one of the things that we do worry about is how many guys you're going to be able to put up there. I mean, and where you're going to put them on, how you're going to have them all connected in communications. I mean, you know, the whole analytics of football really is creating, you know, even more. And it's funny because that analytics may really only amount to 1 win, 2 wins. But it's enough because sometimes one's all you need.
Ron, we'll finish with this. What have you seen in the last few months with Cam Newton? What should America expect when they watch Cam Newton this fall?
Well, this is what's interesting, Peter, is that when the season was over, you know, went and saw the doctor, saw the specialist, a whole bit like that, went through it, and they determined, hey, all he needed was this one little procedure. Does the procedure, and I remember seeing him the day after his surgery, or 2 days after his surgery.
What month was this? Was this January?
February. February. I believe it was February. It was either that or end of January, one of the two. And he looked up at me, and it's funny because, and it's only happened a few times, he's given me this look, this little wink and that big smile of his, and he just went like this. Range of motion, and he gave me that flash, that smile that told me he's going to be all right. And like I said, he's only done it a couple of times, you know, like, one of the games that sticks out in mind was the Giants game in the 2015 season when we had to go down, get in field goal position to score and win the game. And he kind of gave me that look, and lo and behold, he'd done it. He did it. He's done that a couple. So when he did that,
A look of confidence, in
Yes.
other words, yeah.
and that's the one thing about him is when he's confident about something, you can't doubt him. And so when I saw that, I thought, okay, he's going. Then the commitment he made this off season with his rehab program, but taking it one more step further, and working with somebody and doing the things that he needed to do to go beyond. And that's the other thing that he's done too. So it's been a lot of fun to watch. You during OTAs and mini camps, not just going through what he could do during practices and workouts, but what he did beyond. And it's you felt it. Then we come out here, first night of practice, Thursday night. He comes off of a play action, turns, and Curtis splits the defense, and he lays it out there, and Curtis gets it, and you just look and go, wow, okay, he's.
What was the ball, maybe 40 yards in the air?
It was about 40 yards in the air, 40, 45, but the timing of it was about as perfect as it gets, because he dropped back, he hit his back foot, took the hitch, stepped it, and threw it, and just laid it out there. I mean, it was so timed perfectly, and remember, he hadn't done anything since December, and you just thought, wow, that just said, okay. Now, it's still early. We still have, 5 weeks to go. But there's reason to be optimistic about his potential and his return. So I'm pretty excited about him.
How about, was there another point in the off season where you had a significant conversation with him about either how he's doing or what do you think we ought to do for training camp, to be ready?
It's interesting. Because when he first had the surgery and he started working in the off season, I talked and I said, well, what do you think? How are you going to be? He says, oh, I'll be ready. I said, really? Will you be ready for season? No, I'll be ready for training camp. And he's flashing me that smile.
When do you think that was?
That was probably the second week or third week of OTAs. So that was April. Yeah. It was either late April or early May. But it's funny because with him, one thing he's always been truthful. He's never lied to me. Whenever I've had to challenge him on something, he's always come clean. And so I said to him, I said, really, training camp? He said, Coach, training camp. And he just flashed me that confident smile, and I just said, wow, okay. And it's just something that this is our 9th year together, and there's just something about when he's confident about something, you just feel it, you know it, and he's always gone out and done it. So
you think your gut feeling is you'll see the real kind of classic Cam Newton?
I think so. Yeah. I just from everything that I've seen, the way he's worked, the way he's handled himself, barring something crazy, he should be ready to roll, ready to go and just play, and play the way he's always played with confidence.
Last thing, I just thought of this. Is the change in ownership here, which for a while was really sort of heavy, especially in and around Charlotte. Mm-hmm. How have you adjusted to the new owner? How involved is David Tepper?
I think we've adjusted pretty well. I mean, it really is two different personalities. Where Mr. Richardson stayed in the background, only came out and spoke with you when he really felt something needed to be said. And all he wanted was just maybe once a week, hey, this is what's happening. Okay, great, he's fine. With Mr. Tepper, he is, I don't want to say hands-on, but what he is he's a guy that wants to be informed. He wants to know what's happening, and he wants to know why. The one thing I've learned with Mr. Tepper is that it's about working, doing things the right way, and moving forward. If you do something wrong, why? What's the reasoning? Let's correct it. Let's don't make that mistake again. That's really the thing that I've really appreciated as well about Mr. Tepper is that it's he wants to know and he wants to understand. He's wherever he is. One of my favorite sayings, and Dr. Elko, Kevin Elko told me this: be where your feet are. Well, wherever Mr. Tepper is, that's where he is. Mm-hmm. So if he's here, he's going to be engulfed in what's going on the football field. He's going to want to know, hey, well, what are you guys doing here? Why would you do this? So what are we looking for here? What do we need there? That's the other thing too. He wants us to be able to have everything we need to go out and compete. And I think that's he's trying to see how he can make things better. He's trying to find the better mousetrap, the best way to do things, and he's all in, and that's what's been really interesting about it too, because you see he's built the bubble. The bubble's up. We have an indoor practice facility, and he's looking to build a football facility. I shouldn't even say a football, but a sports complex.
Right.
Kind of in the vein of what they did in Dallas, and it's going to be interesting. He's got plans. He's talked about it. To me, it's kind of what's happened with college football, where you get into these quote unquote arms races now about facilities.
Yeah.
You see what they have.
Did you see that LSU facility?
LSU.
They got beds.
Yes.
There.
Oh yeah. Honestly, it kind of makes sense to a degree, because if you're going to want your guys to be there, you got to put them in position to have everything that they need, I guess, is what they're looking at. I mean, I've seen stuff on the Clemson facility. I mean, it's just, the new Auburn one is just amazing. I've been through Alabama's, and you see what they have. Well, now we have an opportunity to have something that's going to be interesting.
Ron Rivera, have a great year with the Panthers.
Appreciate it, Peter. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.